G'day everyone, welcome back to Captain and the Coach. He is Trav, Captain Carruthers. I am James, the Coach McCracken, and this is episode number 9, and we're focusing on the loan process. So Trav, this must be an absolute darling topic of yours because we know you are Mr. Loan Process. If you weren't the captain, we'd probably call this the loan process and the coach because this is something you have spent an inordinate amount of time developing, refining, enhancing, optimizing within your own broking practice. And I think you've inspired a lot of others. And I know that personally because in years gone by, you did a session with our members. And and so let's do this if it's okay in terms of talking about the loan process. We know that this can go on for hours. It won't go on for hours. We've got a time limit we need to stick to. So let's try and focus on a couple of key points here. One of which is the key roadblocks that you notice that brokers tend to have. We'll then have a look at can they be solved through process, through tech, or through people, and then we'll have a look at what are the key tools apart from aggregator CRM that brokers may wish to consider in order to support them and their business in having that balance between having an internally efficient process, having a process that's effective in terms of producing the right result, which is a settlement and hopefully a smooth outcome for themselves and for the client. And thirdly is one that's referable, so the client will come back for future transactions and may also recommend the broker to family and friends. So with that in mind, let's go back to where this all began around the key constraints that you notice are prevalent in some or a lot of broking firms.
Yeah, well, I guess let's just go back to where when I originally started in the industry, I was working with a company, great people, but very antiquated processes, right? Very dated, paper-based. It was, and if you looked at my submission quality, it was probably pretty sloppy, to be completely honest. And yeah, I am a big picture thinker. Like I'm not, my attention to detail is probably not one of my strongest points, and I've hired people in the business to fill that gap for me. But like when we started with the process, when I moved across and we went to brokerage, and I remember speaking to my BRM at the time, and he said, "Trav, you're gonna have to spend 100 to 150 hours building out broker engine to get it to where you want it to be." And I was like, 100 hours? Are you kidding me? No way am I doing that. I'm like, but you know what? I'm pretty fast. I'm a quick study. I'll get it done in 50 hours. I'm like, I'll get it done in 50 hours. I'll park it and I'll just I'll write deals. That was my plan, right? I never had any plan to be this systems and process guy. And when we look at how much money I've spent, and when I've had, this is not just me spending time over the last 8 years on it. It's just me hiring full-time staff doing this. We've spent over 5,000 hours building out our systems and processes. So, but now when we talk about constraints, so what we look for is speed and accuracy. So go faster, but be more accurate. So our submission quality is really high. We've had a broker come into our systems recently. 3 months in, his one-touch approval rate has gone up by 25%. So, and he works through a deal faster. So it's around there's a couple of things. We want to do it cheaper, we want to do it better, and we want to improve the client experience. So I don't think that really answers your question around
No, it
constraints. So
doesn't. I am curious to know though, did he go from 0 to 25 in terms of his one touch approval rate? That was a bit of a dig, by the way. So, uh,
no.
okay. So let's go back to the question, which was,
Yep.
what are you seeing? So, by the way, most people aren't going to put in or around 5,000 hours to optimize and enhance their process, and nor would we expect them to, right? This
Mm.
is where in the absence of putting in that amount of time, they would buy a system like yours or from whoever is the aggregator, because I know multiple brokers across different aggregation groups that also make their systems available. And I would suggest, relative to the dollar value of that system, it is substantially cheaper. We're talking, in fact, magnitudes of dollars cheaper than the alternative, which is to put in the time and effort to do
Mm.
that. So let's talk about constraints, though. What are you seeing as some reasonably prevalent constraints that small to medium firms are experiencing, based on either your own observations or the conversations you have with peers when you're at events?
Yeah, probably one of the biggest constraints is that I see from brokers when it relating back to systems and processes is that, oh, Trav, I don't have time. I don't have time to make these adjustments. I don't have time to build my systems. I'm like, but because you're constant MIRs, you're taking twice the amount of time on a deal, right? So you need to create a habit where improving your systems and processes becomes something that you are doing daily or weekly, whatever the case may be. Like we're building out templates almost every day. We build new templates or we make adjustments, right? So it's something I'm always busy. So my guys will come to me and say, "Hey, Trav, I
Hang
wish
on.
this."
Wait, before you go down that rabbit hole, let's just go through the constraints. So one of them is don't have time. In addition to that, what else?
Listen, don't have time. Constraints.
I'll
Probably
throw
want
one in
to.
here, which
Yeah.
is that sometimes the brokers find that it's difficult to get clients to play ball and to be on the same page in terms of returning the information that the broker needs in order to assess the scenario and or to prepare the deal for application.
Yeah,
So
so
in other words, getting
we've
information
experienced
back.
we've experienced that constraint in the past, and the way we worked around that is we adjusted our communication piece with the client. So it's around we use the finance vault system, and it's saying, "Hey, client, the system is built with cybersecurity as the forethought. So it's a safe way. It's two-factor authentication for you to provide your personal information because we're getting people going, I don't want to send you this. I want to email it or I want to drop it off. I want to drop it off at the office, right? Which it's just it's not efficient. So
Yeah, or attach
it's
it to the
around
leg of a pigeon that's flying by. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's around trying to educate your clients on why we're doing the things we do. We say, look, we spent a significant amount of time and money building this out, so it's secure and it's convenient for you. So I'm doing the client a favor. I've built this for the client. Yes, it helps me because it's far more efficient and it's secure and I don't have to and my team has access to it, but
Mhm.
putting it back on the client. So
Yep.
that's one of the constraints that we've had to come that we've had to resolve through our journey with systems and processes. Another one has been training around teams.
So
So
building team competency and confidence
yes,
or clarity overall and task.
yes, and it's still evolve. It's again, it's constantly evolving, right? So what's happening is, so I hear a lot of businesses talking about offshoring doesn't work. I can guarantee you, if they're telling me offshoring doesn't work, their systems and processes are not built correctly.
And
Because
the alternative to that is I had someone the other day put on a post. I thought it was a little bit, uh, I don't know, I was surprised by it and I politely tried to question it. He said that you get twice the output of an offshore staff member relative to an onshore staff member. And I thought, well, I know some good onshore staff members that would probably disagree that they only produce half the output of good offshore team members.
hmm. No, and I think yeah, it's you're right. Like my offshore team are very proficient. One of the things that we've concentrated on in recent times is upskilling them with the use of technology. A lot of the tasks that they're doing are now becoming automated. So we're upskilling them. So instead of shrinking our team, we're upskilling them so that they can take on more of the power broking roles, right? And this all flows back into systems and processes. Like especially with your offshore teams, they're very process driven. That so it's building that process for them is going to ultimately benefit you as the broker. So I guess one of the things that that's one of the constraints that we had in the early days was our offshore team weren't proficient at certain tasks. So we had to start like we were doing loom like we've got a Loom library of about 200 videos, instructional videos, and we've gone even further to remove that pain point. We link them into the tasks within our broker engine ecosystem. So they're not going looking through the library trying to find it. They're going, here's the task. If I don't understand, watch the video that's in the task. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And they move on. So our onboarding and our training is far more efficient now. And we don't have our team constantly coming going, how do I order a val? How do I do a pricing? What do I do here? What do I do there? So that was one
Yep.
of the big constraints and again, it took time. I mean, we didn't do 200 videos in 2 weeks. It took us probably the last 3 years of building
Yeah.
out that video library.
Yeah, I concur with that sentiment. Although I am going to challenge the thought, because I hear this all the time. Oh, people in the Philippines are, very process driven. And I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. I think that it's convenient for us to pigeonhole virtually everybody in that country to fit a particular profile because it's convenient for us to then validate that belief, virtue or courtesy of the role that we want them to do. But I think it's also a little bit naive and arrogant to think that virtually everybody in that country is process oriented, because that would presuppose that they're all very left brain thinkers and that they've all had a particular way of operating and similar, potentially similar beliefs, and so on and so forth. That they can't be strategic thinkers, that they can't necessarily have a look at the big picture, that they can't solve problems, etc. And so again, happy for people to shoot me down in flames here with their own observations and experiences. But I tend to think that people will fit the criteria relative to the role and how we train or encourage or guide or support them. And to expand upon that slightly, what when my one and only offshore team member started with me quite a number of years ago, she was somewhat of that ilk around process, and she'll build a standard operating system and so on and so forth. But I, in no uncertain terms, let her know that one of the things I valued most about us working together was her ability, which by the way, I realize we're going slightly off topic here with loan process, but all the same, hopefully this is helpful. Uh, I gave her very explicit feedback that I valued greatly when she challenged my opinion or that she asked questions about a particular thing, or in some cases disagreed with a particular thing, which in and of itself was encouraging because that she had the courage to disagree and feel like she wasn't putting a job on the line. And and the more I validated her approach to doing those things, the more that she felt comfortable and confident doing it. And it actually got to the point where I had to like virtually tone it down and say, look, what, just can we get something going here? Because, I don't want to have a, total disagreement around everything. But anyway, it certainly evolved from an orientation that was sort of process centric to one that was a little bit more free flowing in terms of uh, thoughts, opinions, the ability to challenge the status quo, et cetera, which I find, at least for my business, is probably more valuable than someone who can just do what I want them to do because, again, it's all contextual to the organization, but I thought something that might be helpful for people to consider
We've
as well.
we've gone down this we've gone through this journey ourselves. So I think there's probably some cultural factors at play here as well. So they're very
Yeah, I'm
agreeable.
sure.
They're very, very agreeable, right? So we've worked really hard. It's funny, like my offshore managers will tell new onboarders that Trav is more interested in hearing about what he does wrong than what he does right. If you start telling him how great Virtus is and how great a boss he is, it's his eyes almost glaze over and he's already thinking about something else. As soon as you start telling him about something that's not working in the systems or the process or a mistake that's being made, you watch he'll laser focus in. You'll sort of be a little bit taken back by it, but it's because he genuinely wants to know and he gets excited by these things. So, and like we even tell our team, like in 3 months' time, we're going to come to you and say what needs to be changed in the business because we're getting it all the time.
Yeah.
How's everything going? Everything's great. What do we need to change? Nothing. Oh, I didn't realize Virtus was perfect. Oh, it's not perfect. I'm like, well, if it's not perfect, that means something needs to be changed. Tell me. I can't fix it if you don't tell me. So it's taken a long time, but a lot of our processes now that we're tying it back into the process, which is the topic of this podcast, was around I keep training my team. Guys, I want you to be more proficient. The quicker and easier you can navigate your way through the process, the more proficient you can be. So when we start loading the system with volume, one, when we're not seeing mistakes, because you'll see when you load up a process, things will start to break. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like we've
Yeah.
seen it all the time, right? We were doing 7 mil a month, everything was sweet. Hit 10, things start falling off, things start breaking. Good opportunity to fix things. And then
Yeah.
it went to 15, and then we'd have like 30 mil months, and that's when things would start breaking, right? So
Yeah.
and it's around getting that feedback from them and constantly evolving it. So that leading then back to your question about constraints, it was a big constraint was getting constructive feedback from the team on how we can improve the systems.
And we'll elaborate on that slightly by saying and this goes probably without saying, but should be said anyway, is creating a safe space, a judgment-free space, if or otherwise, a space where that feedback is highly prized and appreciated, and or expected, as opposed to an environment where that's criticized, which, by the way, those environments are out there, believe it or not. So I know another broker that, we talk sometimes about staff KPIs. A KPI he had of his offshore team, which at that point he had two of them. This is going back several years ago as well. Was they needed to provide two constructive suggestions that may or may not have been implemented in terms of business improvements, but two per month per staff member. So that's four, and he would look at them and he may or may not act upon them. But the fact that they would do that obviously created the space and the opportunity to consider where and how they may optimize or enhance certain things. And in the doing that, of course, again, it created uh, uh, internal efficiencies. I know this particular organization, he certainly wrote some pretty good numbers relative to the amount of hours he was working. And uh, any staff were appreciated for more than just the adherence to an existing process, because there was an expectation that it was going to be a continuous and evolving machine, if you like.
Hmm.
So that certainly made a difference. By the way, one of the others I think is sometimes, and you go back to your original point around don't have the time. One of the constraints I see with certain brokers relative to their headcount, their capacity, is that where the constraint in the process is the broker themselves, because they're having to do the interview, the credit assessment, and then get the file off their desk, which takes a fair bit of time before they can hand it over to someone else to perform their role. So again, that's contextual to every single situation, but that is also a role that's sometimes filled by a credit analyst or a para broker to create that capacity and that opportunity for the broker to focus on the very pointy front end of the business and still have the means to allow that function to perform well, but not necessarily with them having to do it, because in some cases, clients don't get responded back to quickly. Files take longer to get off their desk, which creates stress for themselves. It obviously diminishes the client experience, and it means that their back end team, on occasions, aren't being able to perform the functions that they want because the file isn't yet hitting their desk. By the way, does that make sense to you, or have you not seen that either in your own environment or in others that you've
That's one of the
spoken to?
constraints that we're currently experiencing in our business, right? So we've got the contractor model. So we've got a support team that are taking care of submissions, settlements, reprices, credit checks, a whole range of different things for our contractors. And then
Yeah.
me, I've got a couple of para brokers that work for me.
Yeah.
And what's happening is like last week was a perfect example. Very, very heavy. We had a massive amount of inquiry in a very short period of time. And
Yeah.
all these deals are bottlenecked where they're requiring my input. And then my guys were like, I'm super busy. I was doing massive days, and my team, my power breaking team, were probably had heaps of capacity. So it was one of the things that's been a focus for us is trying to upskill them so they can take on some of the heavy lifting in that process, so that we can move through these deals quicker. So they're coming in, and it's taking time, right? Like I'm constantly training my team. We're doing some ad hoc stuff. We're doing some ad hoc stuff where they're like, Trav, I don't know what to do here. I'm like, I could literally fix it in 2 minutes, but instead I spend 10 minutes. We go through, we record it, we do a screen share, and I go through and walk them through exactly how we do it,
Yeah.
teaching them, we record the video, and then we move on, right? And it's around trying to get this stuff off my desk onto their desk so that I can increase my capacity.
All makes sense. So let's talk about this. Now that we've identified some of the key constraints, which I think that there's probably more in there than what we've just talked about. I mean, there will be some that happen post lodgement as well, but my experience is overwhelmingly that the bulk of the constraints happen at the front end of the process rather than post lodgement. Um, what are some of the tools? Now, I know the word quickly is going to come up here. It can't not come up in this conversation. But apart from quickly and apart from aggregator software, what are some other tools that you notice that brokers are using that can make certain functions within their business a bit easier? And are they proprietary to that firm, or are they tools that others can buy off the shelf?
Yeah, so I know there's some AI tools that are coming out that I'll be interested in playing with myself. We've been building out some AI channels ourselves. We've got an operations channel that I've been building out for about 6 months now, where my guys, before they come and ask me a question, they can ask in the channel, and they
Yep.
usually get a response from there. So that's a constraint that we've been able to relieve, where the team aren't so reliant on me anymore.
Sorry, I'm just going to repeat that one. Did you say that's like a MS Teams channel that everybody's on to solve problems?
No, no. So this is in our GBT platform. So
Gotcha.
I've built out a channel in the platform that will that we've been iterating it for probably 6 months now, and it's just growing and it's getting more accurate, and it's around
Yeah, what is it on? Yeah, tell me.
GBT, chat GBT.
Oh, no, sorry. What are you focused on? Is it credit analysis? Is it what's the key theme that you've been training this particular GPT on?
We've gone a lot broader than that. We're like it's like we've trained it on a whole range of different things. So credit analysis, it might be the first point of call for like security, like for postcode. It would be pulling data that's relevant, that's obviously online. So pulling credit policy
Yep.
if it's available online, your grants and your schemes,
Yeah,
asking
okay.
like, yeah, I mean, getting clarification around those sorts of things. Uh, it could be anything. Ad backs, which lenders will take which out. Like, I mean, also it's a whole range of different things that we're pretty broad with it.
So
It's
what
just about
I
trying.
just want to touch on one point here. We ran this conversation internally within our client group the other day, and the point was made by one of our coaches, Sarah, I'll give her a shout out, that she said, look, she essentially went around and said, look, what's your wish list? If you could wave a magic wand and there was one thing you wanted, what would it be? And a lot of people said, oh, an AI tool that did credit analysis or so on and so forth. And her response to most of the suggestions was these options are available, but you can't necessarily buy them off the shelf. You've got to do exactly what you've just done, Trav, which is put in some effort to train them, to develop them so that the content it produces for you is is relevant and useful and meaningful, but it takes a number of prompts in order for it to get to that point in terms of the substance of what's available. So it doesn't just happen because you buy it, it happens because you evolve it.
Yes, yeah. Like a good example is like our requirements and objectives. So we we've spent a lot of time. We built out a channel around enhancing our requirements and objectives. Obviously, worked really closely with our compliance teams, with our aggregator, getting some best poke examples and a whole range of different things. And we've adjusted and improved our process internally, and then we've built out a GBT channel that further enhances that. And we've seen really big improvements in compliance um, around that requirements and objectives piece. But again, it took time.
Yep.
I couldn't tell you how many hours I've spent working on it, and I still work on it. Like I'll still go through it. I spent a lot of time at the start getting the channel up to a point where it was operational. And then it's something that I revisit maybe every 2 or 3 months. I'll just jump in and have a play with it. I don't see it as much as what my team do now, but I'll jump in, have a play with it, make some adjustments, see what it's spitting out, and it's just constantly evolving it.
No doubt. All right. So we've got an AI slash GPT tool in
Yep.
addition to that. And so again, excluding quickly and aggregator CRMs. And the reason I want to exclude quickly from this is because, it's the first tool that everyone's going to say, well, I use that because it's amazing. And I'm sure it
Mm.
is. But, if everybody's using it, there's no point us, elaborating on it here. So uh, I actually got the feeling, Trav, that whilst you're evolving some of your own internal tools and resources, what I'm noticing here is an undertone of you doing the fundamentals exceptionally well, which is building the team's capabilities, building their confidence, building their clarity, which unfortunately is not a quick and easy exercise, but it's a worthwhile activity in the pursuit of creating leverage, consistency, tenure of staff, confidence in their roles, enjoyment with what they do, elevating team performance, which of course will contribute towards business improvement, and it'll also provide the capability of the team to, as you said earlier, go quicker and more accurately, which is clearly good for you internally as much as it is externally as well. I think that's sort of an undertone I've noticed from what you're saying, because you're not necessarily coming up with new tools that I've never heard of, and that most of the marketplace hasn't necessarily heard of, unless there's something you're going to share with us right now that's Very,
No,
very
look,
different.
I haven't built like we don't have some proprietary tech piece that we built. We're just essentially everything that we use, we just innovate it and we just and it's fit for purpose for what we do. And but back to that staffing piece, when we hire offshore now, I've probably got probably 15 resumes, like and good resumes that we can look to hire from at an applicant pool. And these all come off referrals from our current team. And the reason why they all want to come and work at Virtus is what in no small part around our systems and processes. That because they've heard about what we do, they've heard about how we do it, like I've got one of my new power brokers been with me 3 weeks now, and very, very proficient, very, very quickly. Don't get me wrong, came in experienced, but I spoke to her yesterday. I said, "How are you finding the process?" She goes, "Look, I was a bit overawed when I started on day one, looking at your broker engine platform and how expansive it is." But they're 3 weeks in, and she's like, "Oh my God, this is so much better than where I came from. It's so much more efficient. It's so much easier to move through a file." I said, "We haven't even scratched the surface yet. You wait till we're 6 months in. Like she's been with us 3 weeks, and she probably knows probably 25% of the capability of our systems, and she's already saying how much better it is. So it's like as I said, 8 years of work's gone into this, but now we're seeing the fruits of our labor, and it's just one of these. It's a long play for us, and it's something we'll continue to work on."
So knowing that's the case, then I think the theme here that we want to try and leave our team members with is a couple of things. One of which is I'm going to suggest that they probably do an audit of where they observe and notice the current constraints within their business. Is it a process-based constraint? Is it a people-based constraint? Is it a tech-based constraint? And on the basis of noticing what are those key constraints is then giving themselves the opportunity to address, or which of these is currently a key constraint that's impacting personal time, impacting maybe their mindset because they're carrying work home that's diluting their ability to focus and be present for family, friends, etc. And maybe the other thing to consider as well is how do they essentially set up a bit of a plan around addressing these constraints one by one? Because there might be a number of them, but as we know, Rome wasn't built in a day, nor was the Virtus loan process or most people's loan process. And how can they try and incrementally and progressively address these concerns so that they create momentum and structure and consistency over a period of time, rather than thinking that it will necessarily evolve immediately, which I mean, yeah, there are ways to do this quicker, but hopefully what we've just said is a good starting point for people that are wanting to take a structured, measured approach to what they do.
When you talk about consistency, so obviously I get approached a lot at events and people reach out to me around systems and processes,
Yeah,
and I more or less run the same conversation. So it relates back to consistency. I said, "You're telling me how busy you are and how you don't have time to build out systems and processes. What if I asked you to be 50%, your systems and processes to improve by 50% in 12 months' time? I'll call you in a year, James, and I want your systems to be 50% better than where they are now." They're laughing. Trav, impossible. Can't do it. 50%, are you crazy? I'm like, okay. What if I call you 7 days from now and I want you to be 1% better? Make one small change, 1%. Easy. I'll do it this afternoon. Okay, we'll do it. I'll call you in 7 days, 1% better. I'll call you in 2 weeks, and now you're 2% better. Over a period of a year, you're 52% better. It's not about, like you said, Rome wasn't built in a day. Just get consistent and create those habits around around just evolving and iterating your processes. And before you
micro
know it,
progress.
yeah, it's insane. You'll pop your head up in 6 months' time and go, "Wow!" Like I didn't like all my team now know like they're around training your team again. That, "Oh, Trav, when you're not busy, can we?" And I'm like, "No, we can't. When I'm not busy, we're talking 2029." They're like, "Oh, okay. Oh, sorry to," but I'm like, "No, no. That means that we'll do it right now." "Oh no, but you're busy." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm gonna be busy tomorrow. I'm gonna be busy next week. I'll be busy next year. You need me? Let's just get it done now. I'll show you, and we'll record it. We'll categorize it in the library, and we'll move on."
Yeah,
So my team now knows. So they're not sitting there saying to me, "Trav, when you're busy, hey Trav, I need your help with this. Give me 15 minutes. We'll jump in. We'll do it together." So it's around. You've just got to create that time, and it might mean you need to stay back for another half an hour every day, but you're not beating your head against a brick wall in 12 months' time, going like I'm still have the same problems I had a year ago.
spot on. Spot on. Not always easy, by the way. I feel like sometimes what we say here on these podcasts is not necessarily going to resonate because I think that sometimes people want the quick answer and they would probably appreciate some sort of magic bullet. But Yes, there are ways to get quicker results, though I would suggest in the main, even within that, is it needing to customize and personalize approaches so that it fits the environment of that broker, their staff, the clients that they provide service to, the technology they use, the client experience they want to provide, how they've set up their organization, whether everyone's in the office versus offshore versus remote, etc. So there's a number of factors that influence how this is all done. Hey mate, I'm also aware of keeping this to a reasonably digestible level for our audience as well. So we might wrap it up there. Is there any parting suggestions other than what you've just provided around, 1% better?
Yeah, so look, just quickly, systems and processes are here to stay. You're going to have to improve them if you want to future-proof your business. This is where you are going to find the biggest gains. There are two things you can do: either build it or buy it. And there's no ways around it. You either and it's not turning around buying an out of the box system, because the out of the box systems, while they're good, they're not they're not going to get you to the levels where you can run. They still need some form of customization, integration. So you either work with a company that can build it for you, or like my contractors, for example, they don't want to build it. They literally come in and they just access it on
Yep.
our contractor model. But yeah, or you go ahead and do what we've done and build yourself a nice slick process.
Yep. Which I would suggest most people are prepared to do that, because my experience is in the conversations I've had with our coaching clients is that they are prepared to do it, and they appreciate it's going to take a bit of time, but they're also up for the challenge and they're willing to put in the energy to get themselves to the point where they want the performance of the business or the client experience or the output or the productivity to be as they would like it to be, sometimes compared to where it is right now. So nicely said, my friend. With that note, for our audience, again, we hope you find this useful. And as always, and as Trav was saying earlier, if you have objections or if there's something you disagree with, we welcome your feedback, because our only intent here is to provide value for you. We hope it inspires you. We hope it empowers you and equips you for the next stage of your journey. On that note, we'll catch you in the next episode. Stay well, keep being amazing, and we will see you in episode number 10 and beyond. Thank you.
Right.